The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest chamber ever built in known space. It was not made of steel or stone like human buildings, but carved from living crystal, harvested from the core of a dying star. The walls shimmered like frozen rainbows, and when light touched them, the colors danced across the faces of thousands of alien delegates. It was a place meant to inspire awe, a place where the galaxy's most powerful voices decided the fate of entire civilizations. On that day, the hall was silent. The usual noise of discussion, of translators whispering and delegates debating was gone. Every representative was waiting for one announcement, one verdict that had been argued for weeks. The fate of a single species now rested in the hands of the Council. That species was humanity. At the center stood Chancellor Valar of the Archeal Dominion, tall and silver-skinned. His voice carried through the hall with calm authority. After long debate, he began, and after reviewing the countless reports of human actions across the stars, the Council has come to a decision. Humanity, the people of Earth, are hereby outlawed from the galactic community. No human vessel may enter Council space. No trade, no diplomacy, no alliances. To aid a human is to defy the Council. A heavy silence followed. Then came the whispers. Some were words of agreement, others of doubt, but most carried the same tone. Fear. The Sarathi delegate, a creature with 4 eyes and a serpentine body, hissed in satisfaction. At last, the dangerous ones are contained. The Luthari ambassador, a being of living light, flickered nervously. Is it truly wise? They are young, yes, but they have proven unpredictable. The Kelvari, armored in chitin, clicked his mandibles. Unpredictable is too soft a word. Reckless, violent, dangerous, the humans spread faster than fire. Leave them unchecked and the galaxy itself may burn. But in the shadows of the chamber, not all shared the same view. A few species who had once traded with Earth, who had seen the laughter of human children and the determination of human workers, now remained quiet. They dared not speak against the Council, but their silence was filled with unease. The Chancellor's voice broke through again. It is decided. Humans are to be exiled. Their colonies will be abandoned, their ships turned away. The galaxy will not fall to chaos, and with that, the hammer of law fell. On Earth, the news reached the world within hours. Screens flickered in every city. Radio spoke the words over crackling signals. People stopped in the middle of their work, in the middle of their meals, to listen. The Galactic Council has declared humanity outlawed. At first, there was disbelief. Some laughed bitterly. They cannot do this. We worked so hard. We gave them everything we had. Others felt rage. We built ships. We helped their fleets. We bled in their wars. And this is how they repay us? But beneath the anger and confusion, a deeper emotion spread. Fear. For years, Earth had relied on trade with alien civilizations. Medicines, energy crystals, faster-than-light technology. All had flowed through agreements. Without them, Earth would stand alone. In the streets of New York, a boy asked his mother, "Does this mean we are bad people?" She hugged him tightly and whispered, "No, it means they are afraid of us." In the deserts of Africa, miners paused their machines and stared at the horizon, wondering if warships would soon darken their skies. In the orbiting stations above Mars, engineers clenched their fists. They knew the Council's decree was not only about politics. It was a warning. Armadas would come. Humanity was not only outlawed, humanity was a target. Admiral Elias Varro sat in a quiet chamber deep beneath Geneva, where Earth's leaders had gathered. He was an old man, his hair silver and his face lined with scars from wars fought long before humanity had met the Council. His eyes, however, still burned with the fire of youth. Around him, the leaders argued, "We cannot fight the galaxy," one politician said, slamming his hand on the table. "We must surrender. Perhaps they will show mercy." "Mercy?" Another spat. "Did you hear the decree? They mean to erase us, to cut us out like a disease." A scientist, pale and shaking, spoke softly. "We are not ready. Our fleets are small, our weapons weaker. They will crush us." The room fell silent until Elias Varro rose. His voice was steady, calm, but it carried weight. "Do you not understand? This is not the first time humanity has faced the impossible. We were not born to surrender. We were born to fight for every breath, every inch of ground. The Council has made their choice. Now we must make ours." "And what choice is that?" asked the Prime Minister. "To survive," Elias said. "To show them that no decree, No fleet, no council can decide whether humanity deserves the stars. Across the world, preparations began. Factories worked through the night. Farmers gave up metal tools to be melted for ships. Scientists opened vaults of forbidden research. Technologies too dangerous to be used in peacetime now needed for survival. Pilots trained until their eyes blurred. Children watched their parents leave for service, their small hands clutching tightly before letting go. The streets were filled with both fear and determination. Humanity was wounded but not broken. On the walls of ruined buildings in war-torn regions, someone painted words that spread like wildfire across the networks. They fear us because they know us. Those words became a song, a chant, a promise. Meanwhile, far above, in the cold reaches of space, the armadas began to gather. The Scifi brought their serpent-shaped cruisers, long and glistening with plasma scales. The Kelvari raised their hive ships, each the size of a city. The Archil Dominion fielded fleets of silver blades. Cutting through the void, the galaxy was preparing to erase a single species. And yet, humanity prepared as well. That night, Admiral Elias Varro stood on the balcony of Earth's defense headquarters. Below him stretched the city lights of Geneva, glowing like scattered stars. He thought of the verdict, of the cold words that had tried to decide the future of his people. He thought of the fleets assembling, of the countless lives that might be lost, and then he thought of Earth itself, of children painting stars on broken walls, of scientists building weapons from scraps, of families holding each other close, refusing to give up. He whispered to the night sky, as if the galaxy could hear. You think you can outlaw humanity, but you cannot outlaw hope. You cannot outlaw courage. You cannot outlaw the human spirit. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the darkness, the stars seemed to burn brighter. The verdict had fallen like a storm. Across the galaxy, the decree spread faster than light. Humanity is outlawed. Traders sealed their routes. Allies turned silent. Neighbors who once welcomed human ships now closed their gates. And in the far corners of space, something darker was stirring. Armadas began to gather. The armadas assemble. At the edge of the Scifi Nebula, great serpent-like warships coiled in formation. Their hulls gleamed with green plasma veins, each ship alive with the hum of deadly power. The Scifi, proud and ruthless, had long feared human unpredictability. To them, this was not war. It was extermination of a dangerous rival. Farther away, within the hive clusters of the Kelvari, swarms of insectoid warriors filled colossal hive ships. These ships were not built but grown, their armor layers secreted like shells, their weapons a mix of organic stingers and plasma. To the Kelvari, humanity was an infection, and infections, they believed, must be cut away. The Archil Dominion, who had led the Council's vote, prepared their fleets of silver spear-shaped cruisers. Sleek, elegant, and merciless, the Archil had fought wars for centuries. To them, this was an act of control. If humans resisted, the Dominion would break them, as they had broken others before. These armadas, though different in form, shared one purpose: to ensure humanity would never rise again. Earth's awakening on Earth, fear turned into determination. Factories across continents roared day and night. Workers, once building peaceful machines, now assembled weapons, armor, and ships. Engineers on Mars designed interceptors from mining crafts, transforming tools into instruments of war. The moons of Jupiter were turned into hidden forges, their icy crust hiding the glow of reactors deep below. It was not enough. Everyone knew it. The fleets of the Council were too vast, too powerful. Humanity had neither the numbers nor the technology to match them, and yet, humanity had something else. In the underground bunkers of Geneva, Admiral Elias Varro addressed the gathering of Earth's leaders again. His voice was calm, but his eyes shone with fire. They will come with numbers. They will come with ships larger than our cities. But do not forget, humans have always faced giants, and each time we have found a way to endure. His words were simple, but they carried through the hearts of those listening, because they knew his history. Varro had been there at Orion, when a fleet twice the size of his own cornered his ships in a dying system. He had fought with broken engines, half the weapons gone, and still, he had led his fleet home. Now he carried that same unyielding spirit, and the people felt it. The hidden strategy in the silence of space, humans began to practice a new kind of war. They could not match the Council in sheer firepower, so they learned to use shadows. Pilots trained to fly through asteroid fields with engines burning only a whisper of power. Commanders studied the weak points of massive ships, searching for small cracks in their perfection. Scientists created weapons that would confuse, disrupt, or disable, not just destroy. "Let them bring their armadas," Vero told his officers. "We will not meet them in open battle. We will strike from the dark like wolves among giants." Captain Mira Solon, a young officer whose parents had died in the first alien raids, nodded firmly. "They expect us to fight like them. We will not give them what they expect." And so training began in secret bases hidden in the rings of Saturn, in the caverns of Mars, and in the empty space between stars. Humanity learned to disappear, to strike suddenly, and to vanish again before the enemy could react. The first encounter, the Council's first fleet, arrived at the rim worlds of Procyon. The Sarathi commander expected an easy victory. His fleet of 50 ships loomed over the human colony below, demanding surrender. No answer came. Minutes stretched. Then, without warning, shadows moved. Human ships, smaller and fewer, darted from the asteroid belt nearby. They struck with precision, disrupting the Sarathi flagship's engines, disabling weapon systems, and vanishing before counterfire could land. The Sarathi were unprepared. They expected humans to fight desperately, openly, but instead they fought with cunning and chaos. In the chaos of battle, Captain Mira Solon's voice echoed through her crew. "Remember why we fight. For Earth. For the right to exist." Her ship, the Resolute, weaved through Sarathi fire, its small cannons striking at weak points. One by one, larger ships faltered under the swarming strikes of smaller human craft. The Sarathi commander hissed in rage. "They fight like no species I have ever seen. They fight, as if they are already doomed, yet they refuse to fall." When the battle ended, half the Sarathi fleet lay shattered. The humans, though battered, had forced the mighty armada to retreat. News of this spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, whispers grew. The outlawed humans. They survived. The price of defiance, but victory came with a cost. In Procyon, the colony burned. Families fled underground shelters as alien fire rained from the sky. Ships that fought bravely returned in pieces. Their crews lost. Every victory felt like survival, not triumph. On Earth, families gathered in silence, waiting for news. Mothers prayed for sons who never returned. Children held on to fading photographs of fathers who had gone to the stars. Each loss carved a deeper wound into humanity's heart. And yet, the pain only fueled the fire. A child in Berlin painted a star on a cracked wall and wrote below it, "We still belong to the sky." That simple drawing was carried across the networks, across ships, across colonies. It became a symbol, a reminder that even in ruin, humanity dreamed of the stars. The fracture in the Council as the armadas continued to assemble, cracks began to appear in the Council itself. Not all species agreed with the decree anymore. The Luthari, the beings of living light, spoke softly in council halls. "Perhaps we were wrong. They are dangerous, yes, but they are also inspiring." Others, like the Sarathi and Kelvari, shouted louder. "Inspiration is nothing but a spark before fire. If they live, they will consume us all." The council grew divided. Yet the fleet still prepared, for fear often outweighs reason. Humanity's choice. Back on Earth, Admiral Vero stood once more before his people. His words were not shouted but carried the weight of truth. They will not stop. They will send fleet after fleet until nothing of us remains. We cannot fight every battle to win, but we can fight every battle to remind them of who we are. We are not just another species to erase. We are humanity. And we will not vanish into silence, the people answered with one voice. From miners on Mars to farmers in Asia, from children in shelters to soldiers in orbit, the same chant rose across humanity. We are not afraid. And so, the shadow of war stretched long across the stars. Armadas were assembling. Battles waited on the horizon, but deep within the human spirit a light was burning, a light that no decree could extinguish. The galaxy had outlawed humanity. Yet in the shadows of war, humanity was only growing stronger. The galaxy had spoken. The Council's decree was law. Humanity was outlawed, branded as reckless and unworthy of the stars. Yet in the shadows of space, a new story was being written. The first sparks of fire were already burning, and soon they would ignite into war. The calm before the rim worlds of Procyon were quiet. It was a small human colony, a world of silver deserts and pale blue skies. Farmers raised crops under domes, miners dug for rare ores beneath the sands, and children laughed in schools carved into canyons. For many years, Procyon had been peaceful, far from the tensions of the council. But peace never lasts long when war is coming. From the colony's observation towers, the people saw at first shadows in the sky. Distant lights, sharp and cold, slowly drawing nearer. The Scifi fleet had arrived. 50 serpent-shaped warships slipped into orbit, their bodies coiling in formation like predators circling prey. Each ship glowed with green plasma, and their long weapons hummed with deadly energy. Inside the colony, panic spread. Families ran to shelters. Alarms screamed. Messages flew to Earth, but everyone knew the truth. Help would not arrive in time. The Scifi commander sent a single transmission to the humans below. His voice was calm, almost mocking. Humans of Procyon, the council has declared you outlaws. Surrender now and perhaps your deaths will be quick. No reply came. The colony fell silent. But above, hidden in the asteroid belt, the first human fleet was waiting. Wolves in the shadows, the human fleet was small, barely 20 ships. They were not grand cruisers like the council's, but fast interceptors and converted mining craft, armed with weapons hastily built in secret. Their hulls bore scars from old battles, their engines were patched and unstable, yet inside their crews were ready. Admiral Elias Varro had chosen Procyon for the first stand. Beside him was Captain Mira Solon, young and fierce, whose parents had been lost in the early raids. The crews looked to them for strength, and though fear burned in every heart, determination burned brighter. They outnumber us more than 2 to 1, Mira said quietly as she studied the fleet before them. Varro nodded. His eyes never left the Scifi ships. Then we will not fight like they expect. We will strike fast. We will strike where it hurts. And when they chase us, we will vanish, the order was given. Engines hummed, weapons warmed, and the small human fleet slipped silently from the asteroids. The battle begins. The Scifi commander laughed when the first human ships appeared. This is all they send? Toys against dragons. But his laughter died quickly. Human ships moved like nothing the Scifi had faced. They darted in and out of formation, their engines cutting off mid-flight to drift in silence, then flaring suddenly in unpredictable bursts. Plasma fire from the Scifi cruisers missed again and again, striking only empty space. Mira's ship, the Resolute, struck first. Its cannons targeted the engines of a Scifi cruiser, blasting through its glowing veins. The massive ship shuddered and fell from formation, spiraling toward the desert below. Another human ship followed, diving close under the belly of a serpent cruiser, releasing a storm of missiles that struck weak armor joints. The cruiser cracked open like a shell. The Scifi commander hissed in fury. They are not fighting to win. They are fighting to make us afraid. And afraid his fleet became. Fire and blood. On the surface, the people of Procyon watched the sky as it burned with streaks of light. Every explosion lit the desert like a second sun. Children cried in shelters. Parents whispered prayers. Farmers clutched rifles they could never use against ships so large. In orbit, the battle raged. Human ships were faster but fragile. Each strike they made risked everything. One by one, brave pilots were lost, their ships torn apart by Scifi fire. Yet even in death, they dragged enemies with them, crashing into cruisers or releasing final volleys before vanishing in flame. Captain Mira's voice carried through the comms. Remember why we fight. Not for victory, but for the right to exist. Her ship weaved through enemy fire, striking again and again. By the time half the Scifi fleet was crippled, Mira's crew was exhausted, their shields gone, their hull scorched. Yet still, they fought. The Scifi commander, desperate, ordered his remaining ships to retreat. The mighty fleet that had come to erase a colony now fled from the smaller, weaker humans who refused to bow. The cost. When silence finally returned to the skies of Procyon, the price was revealed. Of the 20 human ships, 9 were gone. Hundreds of lives had been lost. The colony below was scarred with burning craters where Scifi fire had struck. But the people were alive. Humanity had not only survived, they had resisted. In the aftermath, Admiral Varro sent a message across the stars. His words were simple, yet they carried like thunder. We are outlawed, but we are not broken. Let the galaxy know humanity will not kneel. The message spread quickly. Across the council's worlds, whispers grew. Traders in hidden markets repeated it. Soldiers in distant garrisons wondered about it. Ordinary citizens, alien and human alike, felt something stir within them. The outlawed humans had faced the armadas and they had endured. The spark on Earth. When news of Procyon's survival arrived, celebrations erupted. Bells rang in villages. Cities lit lanterns in the night. Children painted stars on walls, copying the image first seen in Berlin. Everywhere the same words were spoken. They tried to end us, but we are still here. It was only one battle, a small spark in a galaxy of fire. Yet sparks, when carried by the wind, can spread into flames. The council leaders, watching from their great chamber of crystal, argued fiercely. The Sarathi shouted, "They must be crushed at once. If we hesitate, they will grow stronger." The Luthari flickered with unease. Perhaps we were wrong. They are dangerous, yes, but they are also resilient. The Archeal Chancellor silenced them all with a cold voice. This was only one battle. The humans are still weak. They cannot resist the full weight of the Council's armadas. They will be extinguished. But even as he spoke, doubt was spreading among the delegates. For the first time, the galaxy began to wonder, what if humanity cannot be destroyed? A promise in the stars that night. Admiral Vero stood with Mira aboard the Resolute, looking out at the stars. The ships around them were damaged, their crews exhausted, but the spirit within them was unbroken. They said we could not belong here. Mira whispered. That we were outlaws. Vero placed a hand on the glass, staring at the endless void. The Council has made their choice. Now the galaxy will see ours. We will fight, we will endure. And one day, the stars will know our name. The crew around them listened in silence, their hearts heavy but burning with hope. For humanity, the war had only begun. The first flames had been lit and nothing could put them out. The victory at Procyon spread across human space like wildfire. For the first time since the Galactic Council declared them outlaws, humanity felt hope. Songs were sung in crowded streets, children painted stars on broken walls, and families whispered, "We survived. We fought back." But hope always comes with a price. Silent mourning on Earth, the celebrations were mixed with silence. For every cheer, there were families standing outside government buildings waiting for lists of the dead. For every lantern lit in joy, there were candles placed in memory of those who never returned. In Berlin, a mother held a folded flag given to her after her son's ship was lost in the battle. She pressed it to her chest and whispered, "At least he fought for something greater." In New Delhi, a father sat by a radio, listening to names being read aloud. When his daughter's name came, he bowed his head, silent tears falling onto his hands. Every victory brought more grief. Humanity had resisted, yes, but it was bleeding with each stand. The Council's retaliation. The Council was furious. The Sarathi demanded immediate vengeance. The Kelvari swore to send swarms large enough to blot out the stars. The Archeal Chancellor, cold and precise, declared, "Humanity must be made into an example. One small fleet cannot stop the will of the Council. We will burn their colonies. We will remind them that defiance has no reward." So the fleets were sent, larger, stronger, crueler. If Procyon was the first test, then what came next would be the true storm. Flames of Orion, the next battle came at the Orion colonies. These settlements were older than Procyon, built by pioneers who had left Earth generations ago. They were proud, independent, and determined not to bow to the Council's decree. When the Council armada arrived, 100 ships, gleaming like blades, human defenders, stood ready. They were outnumbered 5 to 1. Their weapons were fewer, their shields weaker. Still, they refused to surrender. The battle was chaos. Human ships darted like wolves, striking at weak points and retreating into asteroid fields. They destroyed many Council ships, but the cost was devastating. Colonies on Orion's moons burned. Entire families were lost in orbital bombardments. Admiral Vero, leading from his flagship, ordered retreat only after half the colonies were already destroyed. His voice over the comms was heavy with sorrow. "Fall back. Save who you can. Live to fight again." The humans withdrew, battered and broken, but not erased. The wounds of war back on Earth, the news of Orion shattered hearts. The victory at Procyon had made people believe survival was possible. Orion reminded them that survival was never without sacrifice. Cities held funerals that lasted for days. Bells tolled across continents. Priests, teachers, and parents spoke the same words. They died so humanity may live. But not everyone found comfort in those words. In the ruins of a half-destroyed colony, a young boy shouted at the sky, "Why must we always pay the price?" His voice carried through the networks, sparking debates and tears alike. War was uniting humanity, but it was also carving scars deeper than any before. A galaxy divided in the council chambers of crystal, debate grew fierce. The Sirathi and Kelvari demanded harsher measures, calling humans a fire that must be drowned in ash. But whispers of doubt were spreading. The Luthari delegate, glowing softly, spoke against the decree. "We wanted to prevent chaos. Instead, we have created it. The more we strike, the stronger their will becomes. Perhaps humanity is not the danger. Perhaps it is our fear of them that blinds us." The Chancellor silenced them, but not all were convinced. Some species began secretly trading with humans again, smuggling medicine and supplies. Others remained quiet, afraid to defy the council openly but unwilling to celebrate the slaughter. The galaxy was no longer united. And every human victory, no matter how costly, widened that divide. The Berlin star amid the sorrow, a single image rose as a beacon of hope. It was the star drawn by a child in Berlin, painted on a broken wall after the first battles. Under it were the words, "We still belong to the sky." Soldiers carved that star onto their armor. Pilots painted it onto their ships. Families hung it in their homes. The Berlin star became a symbol of defiance, a reminder that even in ruins, humanity dreamed of the stars. When Admiral Vero saw it painted across a battered cruiser returning from Orion, he whispered, "This is why we fight. Not for power, not for conquest, but for the right to dream." The Admiral's burden, Elias Vero, bore the weight of every battle. He saw the faces of fallen soldiers in his sleep. He heard the cries of colonies burned to ash. Each decision he made was heavy with blood. One night, Captain Mira Solon found him alone in the observation deck, staring at Earth from orbit. "They look to you for hope," Mira said softly. "They follow you because they believe you can lead us through this." Vero shook his head. "I am no savior. I am just an old man trying to hold the line." "Perhaps," Mira replied, "but even old men can carry stars on their shoulders." Her words gave him strength, though the weight never lessened. Seeds of resistance. Despite the losses, humanity grew sharper with each battle. Engineers designed faster engines, stronger shields, and weapons meant to disable enemy fleets instead of matching their firepower. Pilots trained to use asteroid belts and nebulae as shields. Colonies learned to build underground shelters and hidden factories. But resistance was not only military. Writers, artists, and musicians began spreading stories and songs of defiance. Every poem, every painting, every melody reminded the people of why they endured. One song, sung by a child's choir in ruined London, traveled across the networks. Its words were simple: "We will not fade." Soldiers carried it into battle, humming it under their breath. It became another weapon, not of steel, but of spirit. The turning point, by the end of that year, humanity had fought 3 more battles. They won none fully, yet they lost none completely. Each time the Council expected humanity to break. Each time humanity refused. The Council's fleets grew weary. Supplies ran low. Soldiers began to question orders. Some alien captains even spared human colonies, unwilling to slaughter people who refused to surrender. The galaxy was changing. Admiral Vero stood before his people once more, this time with the Berlin star behind him on a great banner. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the hearts of billions. "We have paid dearly for every inch of survival. We have lost families, cities, and worlds, but we have not lost ourselves. The Council believed exile would erase us. Instead, it has made us stronger. The cost of defiance is heavy, but it is a price we will pay, because the future of humanity is worth it." A light in the darkness. As his words spread, so too did hope. Children drew the Berlin star in chalk on the streets. Soldiers swore oaths under its light. Families whispered it to each other before sleep. The galaxy had outlawed humanity. Armadas had burned their worlds. Yet still they endured. The cost of defiance was heavy, but it carried a truth the Council could no longer deny. Humanity would not vanish. And deep within the stars, where the shadows of war grew darker, the first light of something greater was beginning to shine. The galaxy had tried to silence humanity. The Council's decree had outlawed them. The armadas had hunted them and fire had rained upon their colonies. Yet still humanity endured. Each battle had been costly, each victory scarred with grief. But the people of Earth refused to bow. And now, the greatest trial was coming. The gathering storm at the edge of the Sol system. Sensors lit up with warnings. Dozens, then hundreds of enemy signatures appeared, spreading across the void like a storm. It was the largest fleet ever seen, an armada made of many species united under the Council's decree. The Sarathi brought their serpent ships, scales glowing with green fire. The Kelvari brought hive ships so vast they blocked out starlight. The Archeal Dominion arrived with silver cruisers sharp as blades. More fleets followed, each prepared to strike at the heart of humanity. Their goal was simple: Earth itself. On Earth, alarms rang across continents. Families rushed into shelters, ships lifted into orbit ready for the final stand. Across the moon, Mars, and the stations of Jupiter, soldiers prepared with quiet determination. Everyone knew this battle would decide everything. In the command center of Earth's defense, Admiral Elias Varro stood before his officers. His hair was white, his face marked by years of struggle, but his eyes burned brighter than ever. "The Council believes this is our end," he said firmly. "They believe they can erase humanity from the stars. But they forget what we are. We are the children of a world that has survived every storm. We are the people who endure, who rise again no matter the cost. Tonight they will not find a broken people. Tonight they will find humanity." The room was silent, heavy with emotion. Then Captain Mira Solon stepped forward, her voice steady. "Admiral, what if we fall?" Varro's gaze turned to the stars beyond the window. "Then we fall standing. And the galaxy will remember us not as outlaws but as the ones who would not bow." The battle for Earth. The Council Armada entered the Sol system like a wave of steel and fire. Their ships blotted out constellations. Their weapons glowed with power. Human ships rose to meet them. They were fewer, smaller, battered from past battles. Yet they flew with precision, with courage, with something no Council fleet could measure: unbreakable spirit. The first clash came near Mars. Human fighters darted between asteroids, weaving in and out of enemy fire. They struck quickly, disabling engines, tearing through weak points, and retreating before the Armada could react. Council cruisers burned in silence, their hulks drifting into the void. But the enemy was vast. For every cruiser lost, more pressed forward. Human ships were destroyed one after another, their crews sacrificing themselves to buy time. Captain Mira's ship, the Resolute, led a squadron through the chaos. Her voice carried through the comms. "Remember why we fight. For Earth. For our children. For the right to dream." Her words lit a fire in every pilot. They fought harder, faster, refusing to yield. Even as losses grew, their determination only deepened. Fire over Earth. When the Armada reached Earth, the sky turned to fire. Enemy warships hovered above the planet, their shadows stretching across oceans and cities. Weapons charged, ready to erase humanity's home once and for all. But Earth did not stand helpless. Orbital cannons fired from hidden stations. Missiles launched from silos buried deep within mountains. The skies blazed with light as human defenses struck back. In New York, families watched from shelters as streaks of fire cut across the heavens. In Cairo, crowds sang old songs to drown out the fear. In Beijing, children drew the Berlin Star on the walls of their shelters, whispering, "We still belong to the sky." Humanity was not just fighting in space. It was fighting in every heart, every soul across the planet. The breaking point. The battle raged for hours. Ships shattered. Cities trembled. The void between Earth and Mars became a graveyard of burning wrecks. Admiral Varro's flagship was struck, flames ripping through its hull. Alarms screamed and officers shouted, but Varro stood tall. "Hold the line," he ordered. "As long as one ship still flies, Earth still fights." Meanwhile, Mira's ship was trapped between two Sarathi cruisers. Her crew fought desperately, engines failing, weapons overheating. In the final moments, Mira gave the order. Ramming speed. The Resolute turned sharply and slammed into the cruiser ahead. The explosion lit the sky, taking Mira and her crew with it, but also destroying two enemy warships. Her sacrifice became a rallying cry. Across the human fleet, voices shouted through comms, "For Mira! For Earth!" The turning tide. Just as Earth's defenses seemed ready to break, something unexpected happened. A fleet appeared at the edge of the system. Not human, but alien. Luthari ships of living light shimmered into view. Their commander sent a single transmission. "We will not watch a people destroyed for the crime of surviving. Humanity has earned its place among the stars. We stand with them." Gasps filled the council fleet. The Luthari had defied the decree. Moments later, smaller fleets from other sympathetic species arrived. Traders, smugglers, even a few deserters from council armies, all had come, unwilling to watch humanity be erased. The battle shifted. United with their new allies, the humans struck back with renewed strength. Council ships fell one after another, overwhelmed not by numbers but by resolve. The dawn, when the last council flagship burned in the skies above Earth, silence spread across the galaxy. Humanity had survived the storm. Against impossible odds, the outlawed species had not been erased. On Earth, people emerged from shelters, gazing at the clear skies once more. Families wept with joy, children painted stars on the streets. Bells rang in every city, echoing across oceans. Admiral Varro, though wounded, stood before the people. His voice was quiet, filled with both sorrow and pride. "We have paid a heavy price. We have lost friends, families, heroes, but we are still here. The Council tried to erase us, and yet we rise. From this day forward, humanity will never again ask permission to exist. We belong to the stars, and no one can take that from us." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices carrying across the world. A new beginning in the months that followed. The Council fractured. The decree against humanity was shattered. Some species left the Council altogether, refusing to be part of its cruelty. Others sought peace with Earth, hoping to build something new. Humanity, though scarred, stepped forward into a new dawn. They rebuilt their colonies. They honored their dead. They welcomed those who had stood with them, building alliances based not on fear but on respect. The Berlin Star became the symbol of this new era. It was painted on ships, carried on flags, and worn on the armor of soldiers. It was no longer just a child's drawing, it was the promise of a future. The human spirit years later, when children asked their parents about the war, they were told not just of battles and losses, but of courage, sacrifice, and unity. They were told of Mira Solin, who gave her life to protect Earth. They were told of Elias Varro, who carried the weight of humanity on his shoulders. They were told of the people who refused to surrender, even when the galaxy turned against them. And most of all, they were told of the truth that no decree, no fleet, no armada could erase, that humanity had a spirit stronger than fear. The dawn of humanity. The galaxy had once outlawed humanity. Now it looked to them with awe. They were no longer outcasts. They were survivors, dreamers, builders of a new dawn. As Admiral Varro once said, "You cannot outlaw hope. You cannot outlaw courage. You cannot outlaw the human spirit." And so, from the ashes of defiance, humanity rose, not as victims, not as conquerors, but as a light for all who believed in freedom. It was the dawn of humanity. And it had only just begun.